AITA for exposing my fiancée at dinner after she called me jealous and controlling? The first thing people usually assume about me is that I must have missed all the signs. I didn't. I saw them. I just kept explaining them away because I loved her. I'm Victor, 37, and until a few months ago, I was the guy measuring couch dimensions, saving vendor emails, comparing lease terms, and telling myself that all of it was normal because I was building a life with Natalie. We had been together almost 4 years, engaged for 6 months, and close enough to a wedding that my phone was basically half family group chats and half payment reminders. I thought that meant we were serious. I didn't realize serious was just the role she needed me to play. Natalie was 34, and she had a way of making ordinary things feel warmer than they were. She could turn a grocery run into a little date. She remembered that I hated olives, but loved the juice from pepperoncini in a salad. She knew exactly how I took coffee when I had slept badly. When my sister Lena came over, Natalie would touch my shoulder and say, "He's the calmest person I know." Like that was the best thing anyone could be. For a long time, I believed her. She wasn't cold. That would have been easier to understand. She could be affectionate, funny, and thoughtful in ways that made me feel like I had finally found the person I could build a boring, stable, beautiful life with. Not boring in a bad way. Boring like Sunday laundry, takeout on the couch, arguing over which end table looked less ugly, and knowing the same person would be there when the dishwasher broke. After we got engaged, everything sped up. Suddenly there were venue dates, tasting appointments, save-the-date designs, guest list arguments, and a shared wedding email that somehow became my responsibility because, according to Natalie, I was better with details. "You just understand this stuff faster," she said one night, sitting cross-legged on the couch while I compared 2 vendor contracts on my laptop. "I get overwhelmed." I laughed and told her, "You picked the wrong guy if you wanted someone who enjoys spreadsheets." She leaned over, kissed my cheek, and said, "No, I picked exactly the right guy." That was the kind of sentence I kept replaying later, trying to decide whether it had meant what I thought it meant. Most of the wedding accounts ended up under my email. The venue deposit went on my card because mine had a better limit. I paid for the tasting, then she sent me half through Venmo with a little bride emoji in the memo. I paid for the save-the-date cards because she said she would grab the next expense. Then the next expense became floral samples, and the one after that became the engagement party trays, and soon I was doing what I always did when I loved someone. I made myself useful. That was my mistake. Not loving her. Not trusting her. My mistake was confusing being useful with being valued. The cracks started so small that I felt petty for noticing them. Natalie posted the ring constantly. Her hand on a coffee cup. Her hand on the steering wheel. Her hand next to a little white box of cupcakes her friends had brought over. But when she posted photos from our engagement dinner, I was in exactly one of them, half-cropped near the edge, my shoulder more visible than my face. When I joked about it, she rolled her eyes. "You hate pictures anyway." "I don't hate being included." "Victor," she said, drawing my name out like I was being difficult. "It's Instagram. Don't make it weird." So I didn't. Her friends had little phrases too. At a casual dinner, one of them raised a glass and said, "To Natalie finally choosing peace." Another said, "And dependability." God knows we needed that era. Everybody laughed. I smiled because I knew how to be polite in a room where I was the punchline, but not supposed to notice. Later, in the car, I asked, "Do your friends think I'm boring?" Natalie looked genuinely annoyed. "No, they think you're stable." That's a compliment. Stable and boring are cousins. "You're so sensitive lately," she said. I mean that in a sweet way, but still. That became the pattern. If something bothered me, it wasn't the thing itself. It was my reaction. I was reading into it. I was overthinking. I was making it heavy. The name I wasn't allowed to react to was Ethan. Ethan was in Natalie's wider friend group. He was 35, single in a way that seemed permanent by choice, and he had the confidence of a guy who had never had to clean up the emotional messes he helped create. He was always around at birthdays, game nights, and random barbecues. He didn't flirt in a way you could easily call out. He just had inside jokes with Natalie that ended with her laughing a little too hard. He commented on her posts with things like "classic Nat" or "still can't believe the taco incident." And when I asked what the taco incident was, she said, "You had to be there." Once, after an engagement party planning night at her friend Mara's place, Ethan walked in late with a six-pack and said, "There she is, like he had been looking for Natalie instead of the group. Natalie lit up. It was quick, but I saw it. On the drive home, I said, "You and Ethan seem close." She stared through the windshield for 2 full seconds before answering. "He's my friend." I didn't say he wasn't. "You're not seriously going to be one of those guys, are you?" That sentence shut me up, and I think she knew it would. No decent man wants to be one of those guys. No one wants to sound insecure. So I swallowed the question and told myself I trusted her. Then Mara slipped. It was a Saturday afternoon at a friend's house, the kind of casual get-together where people stand around the kitchen island eating chips out of bowls and pretending they aren't all waiting for the real food. Natalie was outside with Ethan and 2 others, looking at something on his phone. I was near the sink helping Mara carry empty plates over. Mara had always been friendly to me, but not close. She was the kind of person who seemed like she was always deciding whether to say what she really thought. That day she looked tired. She had mascara under one eye and kept checking the back door like she was nervous Natalie might come in. She said, "Honestly, I'm glad Natalie picked the husband package this time." I put a plate in the sink and looked at her. "Wait, what does that mean?" Her face changed before her laugh came out. It was too loud and too fast. "Nothing. I just mean you're good for her." "The husband package?" "Victor, don't do that." I said it weird. "Who calls me that?" Mara looked down at the counter and wiped at a water ring that was already gone. "People joke," she said. "That's all." I didn't push her there. The back door opened a second later, and Natalie came in laughing at something Ethan had said. She saw me and Mara standing by the sink and immediately tilted her head. "Everything okay?" "Yeah," Mara said too quickly. "All good." Natalie looked at me then. Not worried. Measuring. On the ride home, Natalie talked about wedding menus like nothing had happened. Chicken, salmon, vegetarian options, whether my aunt would complain if there wasn't a beef choice. I answered at the right moments, but my mind stayed in that kitchen with Mara's face. I knew if I asked too soon, Natalie would only clean up the evidence. So I waited. That night, after Natalie fell asleep, I didn't go through her phone. I want that clear. I didn't hack anything, guess passwords, or play detective in ways I couldn't defend later. I opened my own messages, my own emails, our shared planning spreadsheet, and the vendor accounts under my name. I looked at what I could access because it belonged to me too. The pattern was uglier when I stopped pretending not to see it. The venue had my card saved. The photographer had my email as primary contact. The catering deposit had cleared from my account, with Natalie promising to move money after payday. The lease application for the apartment we were supposed to move into after the wedding was waiting on my signature. Natalie had filled in some of her information, but hadn't uploaded half the documents she needed to finish her side. And she had been pushing hard. For 2 weeks, she had been saying, "We should lock it down before someone else gets it. And can you just sign your part so they know we're serious?" Every time I asked if she had finished her section, she said she would do it later. Love made me generous. It did not make me legally stupid. The next morning, I got a text from Mara. "I'm sorry. I should have said something sooner." Then 3 screenshots came through. I sat at my small kitchen table while the coffee maker sputtered behind me, and for a second I didn't open them. I just stared at my phone, because I knew there are moments where your life stays intact only because you haven't looked yet. Then I looked. The first screenshot was from a private group chat. I recognized the names at the top. Natalie, Mara, 2 of her other friends. Natalie had written, "He's not the kind of guy I'd lose my mind over, but he's the kind of guy you marry." Someone had replied with laughing emojis and, "Honestly, that's growth." Natalie responded, "I know. I'm trying to choose peace instead of chaos for once." My thumb went numb against the phone. The second screenshot had a timestamp from the week after our tasting appointment. The same day I had paid the deposit because Natalie had left her wallet at home. Natalie, I just need to get through this summer without doing anything stupid. Mara, define stupid. Natalie, Ethan is still Ethan. That's the problem. Someone else wrote, "Girl, no? Not again." Natalie, I'm not doing anything. I'm just saying spark doesn't disappear because you put a ring on. I had to put the phone down. Not because it proved she had cheated physically. It didn't. That almost made it worse in a strange way, because it gave her room to argue. It was smoke without a photograph of fire, but it showed me where her head had been while I was building seating charts and calling caterers. The third screenshot changed everything. Natalie, Victor is starting to ask questions. Friend, about Ethan? Natalie, about everything. He's been weird since Mara said something dumb. Mara, I apologized. I didn't say anything specific. Natalie, I need to get ahead of it. If he makes me look bad, my mom will never let it go. Friend, what are you going to say? Natalie, that he's getting jealous and controlling. Not in a scary way, just enough that people understand why I'm stressed. If both families hear it from me first, he can't flip it later. Another message, sent a minute later, was the one that made the hurt settle into something colder. Natalie, he'll probably still pay the remaining balance. He's too decent to make it ugly. I read that line so many times the words stopped looking like words. Too decent to make it ugly. That was what she was counting on. Not my love. Not my trust. My decency. My reluctance to embarrass someone I had planned to marry. My instinct to keep private pain private. I called Lena. My sister is 39, and she has the kind of voice that can make you feel 12 years old and safe even when she's telling you you're being an idiot. She answered on the third ring. What's wrong? I tried to say nothing was wrong, but my throat closed on it. Victor, she said, softer. What happened? I sent her the screenshots. She was quiet for a long time after opening them. Then she said, I hate being right. You knew? I didn't know this, she said. But I knew she liked what you provided more than she liked you being a person. That made me defensive, even then. That's not fair. Maybe not, Lena said. But before you argue with me, ask yourself something. If she came to you right now crying, would you still sign that lease? I didn't answer. That's your answer, she said. I didn't confront Natalie that day, or the next. I became quiet, not passive. There is a difference. Passive is letting someone keep driving while you know the brakes are cut. Quiet is taking your hand off the dashboard and putting on your seat belt before the crash. I downloaded every receipt tied to my accounts. Venue deposit, catering tasting, save the date cards, engagement party trays, Zelle transfers labeled venue deposit and lease application. I exported the planning spreadsheet and made a copy that couldn't be edited. I called the venue and asked what the cancellation deadline was before the next payment became non-refundable. The woman on the phone sounded cheerful until she realized why I was asking. We can remove the stored card from your profile, she said carefully. Future payments would require authorization. The original deposit is subject to the cancellation terms in the contract. I'm not asking for money I'm not owed, I told her. I just don't authorize any future charges. I made the same call to the caterer, then the photographer, then the stationery company. I emailed each one afterward so there was a written record. Nothing dramatic. No accusations. Just, I do not authorize any additional charges to my card or accounts without my written approval. The lease was next. The leasing office confirmed by email that the lease had not been executed because all parties had not signed. I replied that I would not be signing or agreeing to be added. I saved that email too. Every practical step hurt. Not because I wanted to keep paying, but because each one was a little funeral for the version of my future that still existed in my head. The couch dimensions. The place we were supposed to put a bookshelf. The stupid argument over whether a dining table needed 6 chairs if we never had people over. Natalie noticed the shift by the 4th day. We were making dinner in my kitchen. I was chopping onions. She was leaning against the counter scrolling through her phone, not helping but occasionally commenting like a person supervising a show. You've been weird, she said. Have I? Yes. Distant. I kept chopping. There's a lot on my mind. Is this about Ethan? I looked up then. She didn't ask it like an innocent person. She asked it like someone testing whether the door was locked. Should it be? I said. Her face hardened. I cannot keep reassuring you every time you get in your head. That's not an answer. No, Victor, that's the problem. You think every conversation has to be a courtroom now. The word courtroom stuck with me because a week later, she invited me to one with mashed potatoes. Before that, the family pressure started. Denise, Natalie's mother, texted me on a Tuesday morning. Hi, Victor. Natalie says things have been tense. I know wedding stress can bring out insecurity, but marriage requires trust, not punishment. We love you both and want you to get through this stronger. It was polite enough that a stranger might have thought it was kind, but I could feel Natalie's fingerprints all over it. I didn't answer right away. Then I wrote, I agree that marriage requires trust. I also think everyone should have accurate information before giving advice. Denise replied with a thumbs up and nothing else. Paul, Natalie's father, didn't text me. Paul was quieter than Denise, the kind of man who noticed more than he said. At family dinners, he usually refilled drinks and asked practical questions. How's the car running? Did the venue call back? Do you need help moving the big stuff? He wasn't warm exactly, but he was fair. I wondered what Natalie had told him. On Friday, Natalie came over wearing the soft gray sweater I liked, which felt intentional because it was warm outside. She brought iced coffee for both of us and kissed me at the door like we were fine. I want to have dinner Sunday, she said after 10 minutes of pretending to chat normally. Dinner where? My parents. Your sister can come too, if she wants. Maybe your mom. I just want everyone who loves us in one room. I looked at her over the rim of the coffee. For what? She sighed and set her cup down. To clear the air. I feel like we're stuck in this awful loop where you're suspicious and I'm defensive, and it isn't us. Is it before or after the next venue payment is due? Her eyes flickered. Wow, she said softly. That is exactly what I mean. You hear yourself, right? I did hear myself. I sounded calm. That was what scared her. Sunday works, I said. She blinked like she hadn't expected me to agree. Good, she said. I really think it'll help. I'm sure it will. That night, I made the folder. Not a binder. Not a slideshow. Not some dramatic production. Just a plain black folder with printed screenshots, payment confirmations, vendor emails, and the leasing office message confirming I had not signed. I included only what mattered. I didn't include every hurtful joke. I didn't include anything that would embarrass her beyond what was necessary to prove what she had done. At one point, Lena sat across from me at the table and watched me decide which pages to leave out. You're being nicer than she was, she said. I'm not doing this to be cruel. I know. That's why I'm here instead of telling you to burn the whole thing down. I almost laughed. It came out wrong. She reached across the table and tapped one page. This one matters. The part where she says she needs to frame it as jealousy. That's the whole reason for the dinner. I know. Then don't let them talk over you. I won't. I wasn't building a weapon. I was building a boundary nobody could talk over. Sunday dinner smelled like roasted chicken, boxed mashed potatoes, and tension. Denise had set out real plates, but paper napkins, which somehow made the whole thing feel more awkward, like she wanted it to be serious, but not too formal. There were salad bowls on the counter, takeout trays from a deli, and a pitcher of iced tea sweating onto a folded towel. Natalie greeted me at the door with a hug that lasted 1 second too long. Thank you for coming, she whispered. I didn't answer. I hugged her back because both families were watching. My mom couldn't make it, but Lena came. She gave me one quick look when I walked in with the folder under my arm. Not encouragement. Not pity. Just a reminder, stay steady. Denise acted bright for the first 10 minutes. Too bright. Victor, eat. You look thin. I'm fine, thank you. Stress does that to people, she said, glancing at Natalie. Natalie sat beside me, her phone face down near her plate. It kept lighting up. Once, I saw Ethan's name flash across the screen before she turned it farther away. I said nothing. Everyone pretended to eat. Forks scraped plates. Someone refilled iced tea. Paul asked Lena how work was, then seemed to remember this was not a normal dinner and stopped mid-question. The air felt like everyone had been handed a script except me. Finally, Denise put her fork down. I think we all know why we're here. Natalie lowered her eyes. It was a good performance. Soft. Wounded. Controlled. I don't want this to turn into everyone attacking Victor, she said. That was how I knew exactly how this was going to go. Denise reached for her hand. No one is attacking anyone. We just want honesty. Natalie nodded, then looked around the table, not at me. I've been trying really hard, she said. Wedding planning is stressful, and I know Victor likes things organized. I love that about him. But lately it's felt like I'm being watched. Like every friend I talk to, every text, every joke has to be explained. Lena's jaw tightened, but she stayed quiet. Natalie continued. And with Ethan, especially, it's gotten uncomfortable. He's my friend. That's all. But Victor keeps acting like I did something awful. I let my hands rest in my lap. Denise looked at me with the kind of disappointment people use when they have already decided they are being fair. Victor, I know you're hurt by whatever you think is happening, she said. But if you love her, you don't embarrass her like this. You don't punish her for having friends. How have I embarrassed her? I asked. Denise hesitated. Natalie answered, voice trembling now. You've been pulling away. You stopped talking about the lease. You're acting strange about wedding payments. You won't just say what's wrong, so I have to guess. One of her relatives, an aunt I barely knew, leaned forward. Marriage can't start with suspicion. I nodded once. I agree. That seemed to throw them off. Natalie blinked at me. Then why are you doing this? Doing what? Making me feel like I have to prove I'm not some terrible person. There it was. The line she had built the dinner around. Paul, who had been quiet the entire time, looked at me. Victor, do you want to say what's going on? I looked around the table. Denise with her protective anger. Natalie with her wet eyes. Lena watching me like she was ready to step in only if I lost my footing. Paul waiting. I reached down, picked up the folder, and placed it on the table beside the breadbasket. Natalie's face changed. It wasn't fear exactly. It was calculation interrupted. What's that? She asked. The parts you left out. Denise frowned. Victor, don't be dramatic. I'm not asking anyone to take my side, I said. I'm asking you to read what she said when she thought I'd never see it. Natalie sat back. Are you serious? You're bringing private conversations to my parents' dinner table? No, I said. You brought me here to be convicted before I was allowed to speak. I'm bringing evidence. The room went very still. I opened the folder and pulled out the first page. My hand was steady. I remember that because the rest of me felt hollow. I read, not loudly, not cruelly, just clearly. He's not the kind of guy I'd lose my mind over, but he's the kind of guy you marry. Denise's expression tightened. That could mean anything. People say things badly. I agree, I said. One line could mean anything. Natalie jumped in. Exactly. Those were jokes. People vent. You're taking private conversations and twisting them. I turned to the next page. I just need to get through this summer without doing anything stupid, I read. Ethan is still Ethan. That's the problem. Paul looked at Natalie. Natalie opened her mouth, then closed it. Denise said, quieter now, Natalie. It was venting, Natalie said. I was scared. Marriage makes things feel real. I didn't do anything. I haven't said you did, I replied. That made her look worse, and she knew it. I pulled out the third page. This is the part that explains tonight. Natalie reached toward the paper. Victor, stop. I moved it back, not roughly, just enough. No. You wanted everyone who loves us in one room. They're here. Then I read the messages about me, starting to ask questions. About Mara saying something dumb. About getting ahead of it. About framing it as jealousy before I could flip it later. No one moved. Even the phone notifications on Natalie's screen seemed obscene in the silence. I read the last line. He'll probably still pay the remaining balance. He's too decent to make it ugly. Denise looked like someone had opened a window in winter. Paul's voice was low when he finally spoke. Natalie, are those your messages? She was crying now, but not like earlier. Earlier had been soft, controlled tears. These were angry tears. Cornered tears. I was scared, she said. Paul didn't blink. Did you write those words? Yes, but you don't understand the context. Lena made a small sound, almost a laugh, but she held it back. I said, the context is printed too. Natalie turned on me then. You planned this. Yes, I said. The room shifted. She pointed at me like she had found her opening. See? That's what I'm talking about. This is calculated. This is cruel. I looked at Denise. Your daughter told you I was jealous and controlling after she knew I was starting to ask questions. She brought both families here before the next wedding payment deadline. She told her friends I would keep paying because I was too decent to make it ugly. So yes, I planned. I planned to not be lied about. Denise pressed her fingers to her mouth. The aunt who had spoken earlier stared at her plate. Paul leaned back slowly. Did you ask him to pay after you wrote this? Natalie wiped her face. We were still engaged. Wedding expenses are normal. Did you ask him? Paul repeated. She didn't answer. I took out the payment records next. Not all of them. Just enough. I paid the venue deposit on my card. I covered the tasting. I paid for the save-the-date cards. I paid the engagement party trays and got partial reimbursement later. I was asked to sign the lease before Natalie's documents were finished. I have already informed the leasing office that I won't be signing. Natalie's head snapped toward me. You what? The lease wasn't executed. I confirmed it. That apartment was for us. No, I said. It was for a version of us that apparently only existed when I was useful. Denise found her voice again, but it was different now. Less certain. Victor, I understand you're hurt, but humiliating her won't fix anything. I looked at her, and for the first time that night, I felt angry enough that I had to pause before speaking. If I loved her, why bring this here? That's what you asked me earlier. The answer is because she brought me here. She made this public first. She invited my family and hers, so I would look unstable if I defended myself. I didn't cancel truth. I canceled payments I was not legally required to make. Natalie whispered, "You made me look horrible." "No," I said. "I'm showing them what you wrote. Those are different things." Her phone lit up again. This time, everyone saw Ethan's name. Natalie grabbed it, but not fast enough. She read the message, and her face collapsed in a way that almost made me feel sorry for her. Almost. Paul said, "What is it?" "Nothing," Natalie said. Lena tilted her head. "Funny. That's usually what people say right before it's something." Natalie glared at her, then looked down again. Another message came in. Her thumb hovered. Then she turned the phone over, but it was too late for whatever fantasy she had been protecting. I didn't need to see the whole screen. I saw enough. "Don't put me in the middle of your engagement." A second line preview below it read, "I never told you to leave him. Leave me out of this." There was a bitter kind of silence after that. Ethan, the spark, the chaos, the man whose name had hovered over our engagement like smoke, couldn't even be bothered to stand beside the fire. Natalie stood up so fast her chair scraped the floor. "I need air." Denise reached for her, but Natalie was already moving down the hallway. For a minute, nobody followed. That was the first real consequence, I think. Not the canceled payment. Not the exposed texts. The fact that the people she expected to rush after her were too busy looking at the truth she had left behind. Then Denise got up and went after her. Paul stayed at the table. He looked older than he had at the beginning of dinner. "Victor," he said, "I'm sorry." I nodded. I didn't trust myself to answer. He looked at the folder, then at me. I should have asked more questions. "You asked the important one." Lena put her hand on my shoulder for half a second, then let go. She knew I didn't want to be treated like I was breaking. I gathered the pages back into the folder. My body felt strange, light, and heavy at the same time. Denise came back 10 minutes later. Her eyes were red, but her voice was controlled. "She wants to talk to you." I figured. Privately. I looked at Lena. She gave me the smallest nod, the kind that meant she would be close enough if I needed her. I found Natalie in the hallway near the front door, arms wrapped around herself. The porch light spilled through the narrow window beside her, cutting her face in half. For a second I saw the woman I had loved. Not the screenshots. Not the strategy. The woman who used to put her cold feet under my leg on the couch and laugh when I complained. The woman who once drove 20 minutes to bring me soup when I had a fever. The woman I had imagined standing beside me in front of everyone we knew. That was the cruelest part. Betrayal doesn't erase the good memories. It poisons them and makes you question whether they were ever clean. "I got scared," she said. I leaned against the opposite wall. "I know." "No, you don't." Everyone kept asking about dates and dresses and deposits, and it felt like the walls were closing in. "That sounds like fear." She nodded quickly, like I had finally said the line she needed. "Yes, exactly. But fear isn't betrayal." Her face tightened. I continued. "Fear is saying, 'Victor, I don't know if I'm ready.' Fear is asking to slow down. Fear is calling off the wedding before more money gets spent. What you did was keep the benefits while building an exit story. It wasn't like that. You told them you could frame me as jealous before I turned everyone against you." She looked away. I panicked. "You planned." That word landed harder in the hallway than it had at the table. Her voice broke. "Ethan was just attention. It wasn't love." I laughed once, not because it was funny. "Do you hear yourself? You think that makes it better?" "I chose you," she said. "No, you selected me. There's a difference." She wiped her cheek with the heel of her hand. "Victor, please. We can go to counseling. We can push the wedding. We can fix this." A month earlier, that sentence would have torn me in half. That night, it just made me tired. What exactly would we be fixing? The fact that you weren't sure? Or the fact that you tried to make everyone think I was unstable, so I'd keep paying quietly? "You're making it sound so ugly." It was ugly. I just stopped decorating it. She looked down at my hand. "What about the ring?" I took it out of my pocket. I hadn't made a show of it at the table because I wasn't interested in turning the end of my engagement into dinner theater. I placed it on the narrow entryway table beside a bowl of keys. "Keep it, return it, sell it. I don't care tonight. We'll handle anything practical in writing." That scared her more than anger would have. "In writing?" "Yes." You're really done. I looked at her for a long moment. I don't hate you, I said. But I'm not marrying someone who needed a family dinner to make me doubt my own eyes. And I'm not going to be someone's safe option while they keep looking over my shoulder for the person they actually wanted. She started crying harder, but I didn't move toward her. That was new for me. I had always moved toward her. If she cried, I softened. If she panicked, I steadied. If she felt overwhelmed, I became useful. This time, I let her feel what she had made. I walked back into the dining room. Lena was already standing with her purse in her hand. Paul rose too. Denise wouldn't look at me. I didn't need her to. The truth had done what I brought it there to do. As Lena and I stepped outside, she said, "You okay?" "No." She nodded. "Good." Honest answer. The night air felt colder than it should have. I stood by my car for a second with the folder under my arm, listening to the muffled sounds from inside the house. Voices. A chair moving. Natalie crying. Denise saying something I couldn't make out. I thought I would feel victorious. I didn't. I felt exhausted. Relieved, yes, but not happy. There is no clean happiness in finding out the person you wanted to marry had been using your best qualities as part of her plan. But beneath the exhaustion, there was something else. Peace. Not dramatic peace. Not movie-ending peace. Just the quiet of knowing I had stopped participating in my own humiliation. The aftermath was messy, but not in the way Natalie wanted. The next morning, I had 3 missed calls from her, 2 from Denise, and 1 text from Paul. "Call me when you're ready." No pressure. I appreciated that. I didn't call right away. Natalie sent long messages. The first was an apology. The second was an explanation. The third was an accusation that I had destroyed her trust by bringing private texts to dinner. By the fourth, she was asking about whether I had really removed my card from the venue account. That one told me more than the apology had. I replied once. All wedding-related communication needs to be in writing. I will not authorize additional charges. I will pay anything I am legally responsible for and nothing I am not. Please do not use our families to communicate for you. She wrote back, "You're so cold." I stared at that for a while. Then I typed, "No, I'm clear." I didn't answer after that. The vendors handled things like vendors handle things, politely, with policies attached. I didn't magically get every dollar back. Some deposits were gone. Some partial refunds came later. Some cancellation fees stung. But future charges stopped. My card was removed. The venue sent confirmation that no further payment would be processed without new authorization. The apartment stayed and signed by me. Natalie tried once to tell the leasing office there had been a misunderstanding, but the email record was clear. I was not at it. I was not responsible. Friends in that private group chat started turning on each other almost immediately. Mara forwarded me one message, not to stir drama, she said, but because she wanted me to know Natalie was trying to claim the screenshots had been taken out of context. Funny how fast a private joke becomes, "I never said that," when it reaches the table. Mara apologized again. I told her, "You should have said something sooner, but you did say something. I won't forget either part." That was the truth. I didn't make her a hero in my head, but I didn't make her the villain either. Guilt makes people late sometimes. At least she arrived before I signed a lease. Ethan disappeared from the story as soon as it cost him anything. He blocked Natalie for a while, according to someone who thought I needed to know. I didn't. I had already learned everything necessary from the preview on her phone. He liked being wanted. He did not want responsibility. Men like that are only mysterious until the bill comes. Denise sent me one message 3 days later. "I am sorry for what I said at dinner. I believe my daughter. I should not have judged you without hearing you. I didn't know what to do with it at first. Part of me wanted to be cruel. Part of me wanted to say she had been very comfortable judging me when she thought I was the problem. But I also knew Natalie had fed her a version of events designed to activate every protective instinct she had. So I wrote, "Thank you for saying that. I hope you understand why I won't be discussing this further with the family." She replied, "I do." Paul called a week later. I answered because he had earned that much at the table. He didn't make excuses for her. He didn't ask me to reconsider. He just said, "I'm sorry we became part of something that hurt you." I said, "She made you part of it. I just refused to stand there alone." He was quiet, then said, "Fair." That was the last real conversation I had with any of them. Natalie tried a few more times. One message said she missed my calm. Another said she didn't realize how much safety mattered until she lost it. That one almost made me throw my phone across the room. Safety had mattered to her the whole time. That was the problem. She wanted safety like a service, not a relationship. She wanted my steadiness, my money, my patience, my family-friendly image, and my ability to make adult life feel manageable. But she didn't want to look at me and feel lucky. She wanted to look at me and feel settled while still wondering what spark might be waiting somewhere else. I didn't respond. The wedding was officially canceled within 2 weeks. Not postponed. Canceled. Natalie tried to tell people we had mutually decided to take space, but that story didn't survive long. Too many people had been at the dinner. Too many had seen the messages. Too many had heard Paul ask, "Did you write those words?" and watched her fail to deny it. I didn't post anything. I didn't write a public statement. I didn't need to. She had wanted both families in one room, so no one could question her version. Instead, that room became the reason her version couldn't breathe. A month later, I walked through my apartment and noticed how quiet it was without wedding clutter. No invitation samples on the counter. No seating chart taped to the wall. No boxes of decorations Natalie had ordered and expected me to store. Just my couch, my dishes, my old coffee table, and a stack of vendor papers I was finally ready to shred. Lena came over with takeout and a bottle of ginger ale because neither of us felt like pretending it was a champagne moment. She watched me feed the papers into the shredder. "You know," she said, "you didn't just dodge a bad marriage. You dodged being the guy everyone blamed for ruining a good one." I nodded. That was the part people missed when they asked whether I should have exposed her publicly. If Natalie had come to me privately and said, "I'm scared," I would have kept it private. If she had admitted she was confused, I would have been hurt, but I would not have dragged her family into it. If she had called off the wedding before asking me for more money, I would have respected the honesty even through the pain. But she didn't do that. She built a room full of witnesses against me and expected my decency to keep me quiet. So I used the same room to tell the truth. I don't feel proud of the pain on her face. I don't replay the dinner for fun. I don't think heartbreak becomes noble just because you win the argument. But I sleep better knowing I didn't let her turn my restraint into an admission of guilt. I loved Natalie. That was real on my side. Maybe some of it was real on hers too, in the way people can love comfort and still mistake it for loving the person who provides it. But I will never marry someone who treats me like a life raft and then complains that floating is boring. I didn't need to win against Natalie. I just needed to stop letting her write my character. If people want to call me cruel for exposing her in front of both families, they can. I know exactly why I opened that folder, and I would do it again. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.